Jessica Oseguera González knows her father's secrets, and her father is Chicago's most wanted drug lord, the almighty Mexican cartel boss known as El Mencho.
The Mexican military killed El Mencho 5 days ago at a vacation resort in the mountains of Tapalpa. That resort belonged to his daughter, and she already served federal time for running it.
Attention has turned to his family, including daughter Jessica Joanna Oseguera González, a US-born dual citizen who has previously served time in the United States for sanctions violations linked to the cartel.
She was convicted, sentenced to 30 months, and then released early under a criminal justice reform law that Donald Trump signed into effect.
With El Mencho's beloved daughter cutting a guilty deal with American prosecutors and his trusted heir apparent son Ruben facing trial and a lengthy prison term, their father may be right where federal investigators have always said they want him.
Now El Mencho is dead, and his son is serving life in a supermax. The only member of this family who is still free is the woman who built the place where they killed him.
It's not the end of the cartel for sure, because these are huge organizations and they're very well organized, and it's not just centered in one place, it's all over Mexico.
This is the story of Jessica Oseguera González, the woman the cartel world calls La Negra, and how she ended up at the center of the biggest power vacuum in Mexican organized crime. To understand Jessica, you have to go back 3 generations in this family. Her father was Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, El Mencho. He started the CJNG around 2009 and spent 15 years building it into one of the most powerful criminal organizations in the world. Fentanyl, meth, cocaine, all moving across continents. The US government put $15 million on his head.
He's a person that we would consider as public enemy #1. He's a very powerful trafficker in Mexico, and he has cells all over the world.
The CIA and the FBI spent years helping Mexico try to find him, and until 5 days ago, nobody had been able to get to him. Her mother is Rosalinda González Valencia, known as La Jefa, meaning the boss. Rosalinda is one of 15 siblings in the González Valencia clan, the family behind Los Quines, which is the financial engine of the entire CJNG. They built hotels, shopping malls, real estate companies, tequila brands, and restaurants, all designed to move and clean cartel money.
Rosalinda was the financial genius behind the cartel. She was using about 73 companies. We're talking about construction, real estate, hotels, clothing stores, restaurants. But these businesses were nothing more than fronts.
When El Mencho married Rosalinda in 1996, he was merging with that financial empire, and that merger is what made CJNG what it became.
But once he married Rosalia, it was like putting a rocket on his back. He went through the ionosphere of the cartel world and eventually became the head of the Jalisco New Generation cartel.
Rosalinda herself was arrested by the Mexican Navy in 2018 in Zapopan, convicted of money laundering and sentenced to 5 years. She was released in January 2025 for good conduct, and right now, nobody knows where she is.
She is the primary confidant of El Mencho. She knows where all the money is hidden, where, what resources they have. Plus, she knows what corrupt officials are paying.
Her brother is Ruben Oseguera González, El Menchito, also born in San Francisco. He was extradited to the US in February 2020 and convicted in September 2024 of drug trafficking and ordering the shootdown of a Mexican military helicopter with an RPG during the 2015 Jalisco attacks. His sentence was life plus 30 years with $6 billion in forfeiture, and he is currently in ADX Florence, the supermax in Colorado, in the same facility as El Chapo. Her uncle, Abigail González Valencia, runs Los Quines and is still wanted and at large in Mexico, and her great-uncle, Armando Valencia Cornelio, known as El Maradona, founded the Milenio Cartel, which is the organization CJNG grew out of. So Jessica had cartel infrastructure on every side of her family, and when she went to ITSO University in Guadalajara to study marketing, she took what she learned and put it to work for the family business. After graduating, she set up a network of companies across Jalisco. Mizu Sushi Lounge, an upscale sushi spot in Guadalajara. Tequila Onze Black, a premium tequila brand. J&P Advertising, a marketing agency. Las Flores Cabañas, a vacation cabin rental in the mountain town of Tapalpa, and at least 2 more entities tied to property management. From the outside, it looked like a young businesswoman building a legitimate portfolio. According to U.S. prosecutors, every one of those businesses was moving money through the CJNG's financial network. In April 2015, OFAC, the U.S. Treasury's Office of Foreign Assets Control, sanctioned CJNG and Las Quinas, and specifically named Jessica's businesses on the list. The Kingpin Act prohibits any U.S. citizen against transacting business with designated narco-traffickers, and that applied directly to Jessica because she was born in San Francisco. Her response was to rename the businesses. Mizu Sushi became Kenzo Sushi. Las Flores Cabañas became Cabañas La Loma. New signs, same operations. OFAC caught the rebrand in 2020 and added the new names to the sanctions list. The DOJ later used those name changes as evidence that Jessica knew what she was doing and was deliberately working around the sanctions. All of that caught up with her in February 2020. El Menchito had just been extradited to the US from Mexico on February 20th, and 6 days later, Jessica flew to Washington, D.C. for her brother's federal court hearing at the E. Barrett Prettyman Courthouse. Witnesses described her showing up in an Hermes bag, a Rolex, a Louis Vuitton coat, and black designer boots. The FBI was already inside. The moment she walked through the door, federal agents arrested her on 5 counts of violating the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act for running financial transactions through CJNG-linked businesses. She walked straight into a trap the DOJ had been building for her.
Mencho's son and understudy, known as Menchito, was extradited from Mexico to the U.S. His sister, known as La Negra, came to the U.S. to support him and as an American citizen was promptly arrested and charged with cartel connections.
That put both of El Mencho's children in U.S. federal custody at the same time. One brought by extradition from Mexico, the other arrested in a courthouse in the nation's capital. The most powerful cartel leader on the planet had both his kids in American handcuffs, and there was nothing he could do about it. In March 2021, Jessica pleaded guilty to all 5 counts. Prosecutors pushed for 51 months, over 4 years. Her lawyers argued no prior record and genuine remorse. The judge went closer to the defense and gave her 30 months, 2.5 years. Her brother, from the same family and the same cartel money, got life plus 30 years and a cell at ADX Florence. Jessica served her 30 months at FCI Dublin, a federal prison in California, but she actually got out a month early, on March 14, 2022, after about 25 months. The reason was the First Step Act.
The first step, and that's what it is. It's a first step, but it's a very big first step.
So what is it? The First Step Act is a sentencing and prison reform bill. It deals specifically with federal inmates who make up just under 10% of America's prison population.
The First Step Act was signed by President Donald Trump on December 21, 2018. It is a bipartisan criminal justice reform bill that lets nonviolent federal inmates earn good time credits to reduce their sentences. It was designed for low-level drug offenders, first-time criminals, and people considered minimal risk. Jessica met every requirement. Her convictions were classified as nonviolent financial crimes, she had no prior record, and she earned her credits and got out ahead of schedule. Donald Trump signed the First Step Act. He also designated CJNG as a terrorist organization and put a $15 million bounty on El Mencho. And it was his own law that let El Mencho's daughter, convicted of laundering cartel money, walk out of prison early. Vice put it in one headline: Trump signed the early release of cartel boss El Mencho's daughter. After her release, Jessica went back to Mexico, where she still had open investigations waiting for her. In February 2023, Mexico's Attorney General seized a bank account linked to her, and a federal court rejected her attempt to unfreeze the funds. She also married Julio Alberto Castillo Rodriguez, known as El Choro, a high-ranking CJNG financial operator who controls cartel operations through the port of Manzanillo in Colima, one of the key entry points where precursor chemicals from Asia come in for manufacturing fentanyl and other synthetic drugs headed to the United States. The U.S. Treasury sanctioned El Choro under the Kingpin Act in 2016 and updated those sanctions in 2021 and again in 2025. The marriage connected the Oseguera name, the González Valencia financial network, and CJNG's drug pipeline into one couple. Then, on February 22, 2026, Mexican Special Forces launched the raid that killed El Mencho, and the location tied everything back to Jessica. The military had tracked El Mencho through one of his romantic partners. Mexico's defense secretary said investigators found a trusted man connected to the partner, followed him to a compound outside Tapalpa, and confirmed El Mencho was there. The military assembled a ground assault backed by 6 helicopters, locked down the area before sunrise, and went in. Cartel gunmen fired on soldiers coming up the hill. 8 CJNG members were killed. El Mencho and 2 bodyguards ran into the woods. A second round of fighting broke out, and soldiers found him wounded. He was put on a helicopter and died before they landed. The compound where they found him was Cabañas La Loma. The vacation cabin complex Jessica started under the name Las Flores Cabañas. The property OFAC sanctioned in 2015 for supporting CJNG drug trafficking. The business she renamed to dodge those sanctions. The property OFAC caught and resanctioned in 2020. The one she pleaded guilty over in 2021 and did federal time for. El Mencho was hiding at the resort his daughter built, managed, and went to prison for. Caron, a sanctions compliance firm, confirmed the connection by tracing the property through its name changes and OFAC filings. The U.S. government had flagged Cabañas La Loma as a CJNG front years before El Mencho ever used it as a hideout. These front businesses were never just about cleaning money. They were safe houses, part of the cartel's day-to-day operations, and the one in Tapalpa is where the most wanted man in the world spent his last hours. The death of El Mencho set off a wave of retaliation across Mexico. Within hours, CJNG members were burning vehicles, blocking highways, and attacking government forces in Jalisco, Colima, Guanajuato, Tamaulipas, and Guerrero.
Violence has erupted across Mexico following the killing of the country's most wanted drug leader known as El Mencho. In a military operation on Sunday, you can see smoke billowing into the sky there in this resort town on Mexico's Pacific coast.
A senior CJNG figure known as El Tuli, who served as El Mencho's right-hand man and top financial operator, organized coordinated attacks and offered a bounty of 20,000 pesos for every soldier killed. Mexican security forces tracked El Tuli to the town of El Grulo later that same day and killed him when he opened fire trying to escape. At least 58 people died across Jalisco in the violence that followed the raid. Airlines canceled flights to Puerto Vallarta, and the U.S. government told American citizens in the area to shelter in place. With El Mencho dead and the cartel in chaos, every major outlet started asking the same question: who takes over CJNG? Jessica's name is in almost every analysis. She knows the cartel's financial structure from running its front businesses. She has a marketing degree and years of operational experience. Her mother, Rosalinda, is also free as of January 2025. And through her marriage to El Choro, she is directly connected to CJNG's drug supply chain through the port of Manzanillo. But her U.S. citizenship and federal conviction make her a permanent target for American law enforcement, and any new charges would bring maximum sentencing. CJNG's armed wing is run by men who may not follow a woman. Other names are circling, including El Mencho's stepson, Juan Carlos Valencia, and regional commanders with their own territory and manpower. And the U.S. Treasury has separately identified El Choro as a likely successor, meaning the leadership could go to her husband rather than to her directly. No government on either side of the border has confirmed any change in CJNG's leadership. The succession is completely open. An American-born woman with a federal conviction, a marketing degree, a cartel marriage, and the Oseguera name is at the center of one of the biggest power vacuums in the history of organized crime. Where it goes from here, nobody knows yet.